Hey, I'm Jay Malone. I am the owner of Passive Profits. And as much as I like to write, I struggle to read. Um, some of these newsletters are pretty lengthy if you haven't noticed by yet. And personally, when I'm trying to absorb a lot of deep, helpful content and information, I actually do better by listening to it because I can listen to it on the go, in the gym, in the car, wherever I am. And so if that's you, if that's your learning preference or reading preference to actually watch, then these little videos will be at the top of every future newsletter post, I think. This is a new experiment I'm trying out where I'll talk you through the content. And, I'll riff a little bit so you can kind of just hear some bonus content. So here goes. This is the first newsletter post of the newsletter, and this is a deep dive. So just for context, deep dives feature founder stories of founders that have digitized their services or in general have created digital products that they're selling as part of their business. And this first deep dive happens to be featuring me and my other company, New Haircut. And then otherwise, there are also posts that are more sort of like playbook and guide, like how-to versions, how-to style, to talk you through specific things that I'm teaching you in that newsletter post. So without further ado, here is the first deep dive of Passive Profits, how New Haircut grew its products 1,353% with one digital product on its very first attempt. Okay. In 2017, New Haircut was a 35-person, 7-year-old digital agency that struggled to turn a profit. By 2021, it was a 3-person product strategy consultancy with digital products driving its high-ticket sales, with profit growth from those digital products of 1,353%. Crazy. Sometimes I have to fact check those numbers just to believe how good they were, and they were. Okay, so welcome to our very first deep dive. Today we're featuring my own company, New Haircut. Starting here is my way of leading by example, sort of like dog fooding, that everything that I'm going to teach you in this newsletter is stuff that I have used and I'm still actively using today to build another company that I'm running. And so it's a way of then me showing you that I practice what I preach. P.S. Here's a bit more of my backstory that led to me starting this that led me to start this newsletter, which links to the Start Here page on yourpassiveprofits.co. Okay. And then by the end of today's post, you'll have a complete breakdown of how New Haircut 1 grew profits 1,353% by productizing one service. 2, launched its first digital product in less than 8 weeks and less than $500. And 3, generated $3,435 per month in passive profits. Then in the next 2 upcoming posts, actually 3, I got to fix that, I'll provide you with a playbook to prepare and build your first digital product. And so that is going to be it's a series called Your First Product. Okay, without further ado, onward, here we go. So, New Haircut deep dive from digital agency with paper-thin margins to tiny team driving 4-digit profits. New Haircut kicked off in 2010 as a 4-person tech consultancy, aka a dev shop. The company made its money developing technology like websites and mobile apps for other businesses. As a people-powered business, 100% of our income came from selling technology services. Naturally, we had dreams of growing the business. And so we did that with 4 growth levers. Growth lever number 1 was to increase the people, so our people, our team. My early attempts to grow, and let's get into that, right? So my early attempts to grow New Haircut came by working long hours. If you're a founder, I'm guessing that's hardly surprising. But there comes a point where there are no more hours to work in the day. And even before you reach that limit, your healthy and personal life begin to suffer. And so the first growth lever I used to scale the company came by hiring. Hiring provided two benefits. One, it freed me up for strategic work like business development and marketing. Two, by having more staff, I could bill more hours and the company would generate more revenue. So growth by hiring is linear. In other words, for each extra person you hire, your sum total of billable hours increases by 1 unit. This type of growth is of course proven, but comes with risk. For each person you hire, you need proportionately more work. And if you're lucky and smart, you break even. If you're both, you turn a profit. But let's also not overlook how hard it is to hire A players, especially as a small company. We were competing against high growth tech startups and service titans like IBM. Over time, we grew to a 35-person company. Given the pace and challenges of hiring, though, we looked for growth elsewhere. So growth lever number 2 then, we started to increase our rates. So even as we hired, I continued to work around the clock. Asking my team to do the same came with the added risk of employee churn. So when you can't squeeze out another billable hour, the next option is increasing your rates. In a blue ocean where competition is low, you have lots of leeway with your pricing. That was not the case for us. Technology consulting was and is a deep red ocean. We could only raise our rates so high before our customers looked for cheaper options. We routinely lost opportunities to offshore outsourcing companies charging a third our rates, but hiring cheaper talent was not a viable option for us. We knew that tactic would jeopardize quality. Instead, we raised our rates. That enabled us to reinvest in hiring the best and winning more lucrative projects. That strategy worked, but had clear limitations. As a result, growth by increasing people and rates during our first 6 years was slow and painful. I felt like I had become a slave to my own business. I could have closed up shop, I suppose, gotten a job making 2 to 3x and eliminated all the stress of building a company. Something needed to change. So growth lever number 3 was productization. In 2016, we productized one of our services. In growth lever number 4, coming up shortly, I'm going to talk about digitizing. Productizing and digitizing are related but different. To productize, we packaged one of our core services, Design Sprint Facilitation Services. That service was valuable, but sales cycles were long. They required a heavy investment of my team's time, and coordination with our customers' team was complicated. These factors not only ate away at our services profitability, but made it harder for our customers to buy. At the same time, we had new and existing customers that wanted to learn how to run design sprints. They were looking for more of a DIY, do-it-yourself option, versus hiring us to do it for them. Reading the tea leaves here, we packaged our design sprint knowledge into 2-day training workshops. We had 3 hypotheses about training that all pointed to increased profitability. 1, we would use fewer people and less time to generate the same or more revenue. 2, it would be easier to buy, and so we'd sell more. In other words, it would be easier for our customer to buy. And 3, it created new revenue streams by attracting new DIY customers. Compared to our core facilitation services, the numbers on training were immediately attractive. At the time, we were billing $75 per hour for our facilitation services. A 4-person project team would generate about $36,000 per month. On our best months, we had 80% utilization of our billable staff, meaning we were able to allocate across the board each person by about 80% of their total fillable hours per week and per month. That meant we grossed approximately $75,000 per month with an EBITDA profits of about $10,000. But we also had lower utilization months and sales challenges. As a result, all profits were routinely siphoned to plug our leaky ship. Training, though, was a whole new ballgame. There was an upfront cost to build each curriculum. But even with our first cohorts, a team of 1 to 3 trainers generated anywhere from $10,000 to $40,000 per 2-day training. That means that our hourly rate jumped from $75 to $1,250. That's a 1,175% increase. So we obviously, we tripled down on training. In less than 12 months, 50% of our revenue was coming from training, right? So like we kind of split the pie where we used to be all in on facilitated services, technology consulting services. Now 50% of our revenue within the year was coming from training. Today, New Haircut still relies on training as a major source of high profit revenue. Here's a snapshot of an actual pricing slide with several training packages. It's from one of the corporate training programs we landed in 2023. I have an incomplete sentence there that I have to fix. And the slide shows a couple versions of training tiers that we offered to a corporate client. One for $50,000 per cohort, another for $30,000, and another for $20,000. And so when you reverse engineer the numbers there, all of those were able to be run by a single trainer. That's one employee generating a minimum of $100,000. And that goes up for every additional cohort, of course. And so the numbers there is the total approximate time commitment was 70 hours. Our hourly rate was $1,428. And we had profit increases from our original services of 1,353%. Training has created new, more profitable revenue streams. Still, it remains a people-powered, time-intensive service. Let's say New Haircut pivoted to an all-training model. Growth would remain constrained by our headcount and rates, right? No matter if you're selling consulting or you're selling training, it's still a people-powered service, which has its constraints. So the question that we started asking ourselves is, how could we grow without such constraints? Here we get into cracking the code on passive profits as a service business, as a services business. By packaging training, we experienced an aha moment. We had uncovered new frontiers of business growth. That stark realization reminds me of the infamous story of Rochester Bannister. Dating back to the 1800s, it had long been assumed impossible to run the mile in less than 4 minutes. Decades passed and no runner could crack it. Then on May 6, 1954, Roger Bannister ran the mile in 3 minutes and 59 seconds. Droves of runners followed suit. Each set out to do what Bannister had achieved. And only 46 days later, John Landry ran the mile in 3 minutes and 58 seconds. Today, while challenging, a sub 4-minute mile is an everyday occurrence. That's the magic of a story like Bannister's. Every now and then, a person or event forces a pattern interrupt. A mountain you consider to be immovable budges. A blind spot appears clear as day. For New Haircut, we had spent 5 years toiling with growth levers that were slow, linear, and risky. Then one day, we ran a training workshop that generated upwards of 1,000% profit gains. And within days from that breakthrough, we were building more training. More importantly, we were asking ourselves, what else is possible? And so growth lever number 4 was our first digital product. Between 2015 and 2019, New Haircut ran many trainings. Over time, we noticed a pattern emerging during each training. Without fail, someone would ask, will we get a copy of the slides? Similarly, they'd ask for other materials we used to run the training. My answer was always, no, sorry, these materials are part of our training IP. Then during a training in October 2019, I decided to get curious. I was teaching another of our product discovery frameworks called problem framing. When I heard the inevitable request for our materials, I responded with, we get that question a lot. Do you mind if I ask, what will you use the materials to do? The answer was much more obvious than I had imagined. They said something to the effect of, I just like something to refer to when I attempt to run this process on an upcoming project. Your slides show me what good looks like, and your templates will save me lots of time trying to otherwise recreate them from scratch. It was a big light bulb moment for me. See, we had spent 4 years training thousands of people, and the whole time, the answer to increased profits and in parentheses, reduced need to travel, which was a pain point for me, wanting to be around my family, be at my kids' sporting events and whatnot. So let me reread that. And the whole time, the answer to increase profits was right under my nose. I was simply too caught up in our existing solution to see the bigger opportunity. I was also fearful of what others might do with our materials. Would they resell it? Would they claim it was theirs? Would our sales channels for our premium services sort of just like evaporate? These things happen, but they're also not a reason to keep from trying. As I listened to the real needs of my customers, I was able to discover the next wave of our training offers. An online, self-directed digital product with all of our training materials and ready-to-use templates. Without any prior experience, in 6 weeks, and for a budget of around $500, our very first toolkit was born. The Problem Framing Toolkit. There's a nice little picture of a box in the newsletter. Looking back, it all seems so obvious for this to be the natural progression of our training. I've got to go back here. I've missed a few typos. It's the beauty of rereading your own stuff. That first toolkit did 3 things. 1, created a low ticket offer that got new customers into my funnel. 2, won us high ticket deals from toolkit customers, right? So like they used the toolkit and then they called us to help them do the work, to train them, to train their whole team, or to run the process ourselves. And 3, it generated a new passive income stream. Most importantly, it dispelled our fears and misbeliefs that our customers would never buy a training product that wasn't provided live and in person. The initial results, they're promising, let me tell you. The first iteration of our toolkit took approximately 100 hours to build and launch. For all intents and purposes, that was really a one-time investment. Of course, we've continued to iterate it many, many times over, but first time out was about 100 hours. In the first 90 days after launching, the toolkit generated $10,306. Keep in mind, not only was this first product really like a prototype of what we were learning and productizing and all sorts of things, but we barely promoted it. I talked about it a few times on social media. That's about it. I had a page on our website. That's it. Let's look at those numbers. Time commitment, post-build, not including the 100 hours to build, was 10 hours. Hourly rate, that means if we reverse engineer the $10,306 that we made after launch, the 10 hours was just like support and a little bit of iteration. That means the hourly rate in those first 90 days was $1,030, which gives us profit increases from our original services of $75 an hour of 955%. And now here is the inconceivable truth that too many founders, myself included for a while, turn a blind eye to. Without enough testing and tuning, your digital product will reach product market fit and your time commitment will drop to roughly 0. Think about that, right? Like, so if you build something that eventually becomes a slam dunk, that you have customers going onto your website, reviewing it, checking out, and using it, all without you doing a thing, those are passive profits. Okay? That leaves you with a sales channel earning nearly pure zero-cost profits. It's the stuff of legend. So, recreating this for your business. I hope that you're ready to dive into that and continue reading. I hope my story has inspired you to want to build your own growth loops with digital products. And if so, you are in luck, because in the very next post, I'm helping you get set, prepare to build your first digital product. It's part 1 of a 4-part series called Your First Product. And I hope that you enjoy it. I hope that you enjoyed listening to my little riff of this first newsletter post. Give me some feedback in the comments if this is helpful and if you want me to keep doing this. All right, see ya.